Battle of the Bay. Joe Montana versus Steve Young. Joe Montana likes being king. That's a statement from Steve Young during an interview. And although Cool Joe deserves the crown, in less than a decade, Steve Young snatched it from him. Montana had helped the 49ers to 4 Super Bowl victories. He helped them build a dynasty, but just as the dynasty reached its peak, a new force emerged, causing so much rift in the locker room. So much that Joe Montana was banned from the Niners facility. It was the Battle of the Bay, and what followed was more than a quarterback controversy. It was like the Avengers Civil War. Coach and management clashed constantly. Fans took sides and teammates whispered for years. But the question is, who has the better legacy, Joe Montana or Steve Young? To settle this decade-long debate, we have to go all the way back to 1849. Before the Super Bowls, before the rings, and before the controversy that split a fan base, the San Francisco 49ers were just another struggling franchise. Named after the 1849 Gold Rush prospectors, the 49ers were anything but golden. They joined the NFL in 1949, and they struggled. The 1960s were bleak, with only 2 winning seasons. And the early 1970s saw a revival under Dick Nolan, with 3 straight NFC West titles and NFC Championship appearances from 1970 to 1972, but that was it. Candlestick Park wasn't home to a dynasty. It was home to disappointment. But all that changed in 1979, when Bill Walsh arrived with his West Coast offense and drafted Joe Montana. Third-round pick. But why did the coach draft an undersized boy from New Eagle? Here's why. Joe was drafted 82nd overall and wasn't supposed to be a savior. He was behind starter Steve DeBerg, but by 1980, Montana became a different beast and took over.
Looks for anybody to come back and help him out. And Stutter steps down the sideline.
Taking the 49ers to the NFC Championship game. After launching the 49ers into the Super Bowl, the Montana era had officially begun.
Motion, he rolls right and throws to Freddie Solomon, complete for a 49er first down. Knocked out of bounds.
But after Joe Montana's back injury in 1986, Coach Bill Walsh was considering finding a replacement. And in 1987, that turned out to be Steve Young. Although, according to Young, he wouldn't have made the move if he knew Joe was fit to play.
The reason why I had no doubts about coming was Bill said he's had second back surgery, Steve, and he will not recover from it. And I remember turning to Bill, looking at him like, hey, you told me, because he gave this, let Bill Walsh that.
Steve was a gifted left-hander with blazing speed and undeniable talent. The 49ers picked him up at first. He was just insurance. But Young wasn't content holding a clipboard. He wanted to play. And the opportunity came in the 1987 NFC Divisional Playoff game against the Vikings. Montana struggled, completing only 12 of 26 passes for 109 yards. By the third quarter, Coach Walsh made the impossible decision to bench him for Steve Young. Even years later, Joe still feels the sting.
I didn't want to be pulled. I didn't like being pulled. I always felt that no matter what, we can come back from a deficit with our team.
That decision almost paid off as Young almost led a comeback, throwing a touchdown and rushing for 49 yards, including a 5-yard score in a 36-24 loss. This was the moment that lit the quarterback controversy fire in San Francisco, and fans have never been able to agree until today. But first, let's go back to how Joe came into the 49ers franchise. Joe Montana wasn't supposed to be a generational talent, and when the 49ers picked him, few saw it as a franchise-defining move. But what he had was something no coach could teach: calm under pressure. The kind of composure that would earn him a nickname, Cool Joe. And in just his second season as a starter, he did something unimaginable. He led the 49ers, a team that had gone 2-14 just 2 seasons earlier, to the NFC Championship game. That's when he made history. In the closing moments against the Dallas Cowboys, Montana rolled right, under pressure, and lofted a pass to the back of the end zone. Dwight Clark soared. The result was the catch. A moment that didn't just win the game, it changed the trajectory of the franchise. The 49ers went on to win Super Bowl 16 that year. And Montana wasn't just a champion, he was named Super Bowl MVP. But he was only getting started. In 1984, Montana and the 49ers returned to the top, dismantling the Dolphins in Super Bowl 19. In 1988, they did it again, a nail-biting win over the Bengals in Super Bowl 23, and in 1989, they completed the back-to-back against the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 24. 4 rings, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and 127.8 passer rating in the Super Bowls, which is still the highest in NFL history. With Jerry Rice, Joe Montana made the 49ers king. And the chemistry between the two is something Jerry still talks about fondly.
When I go around and I do talks, guys, I always say this, and I joke around about it. I say if Joe was a female, I would date him. Big time. Because we had such great chemistry that way.
But how did Steve Young even get there in the first place? Steve Young's journey to the top wasn't smooth. It was built on rejection, resilience, and relentless pressure. Drafted in 1984 by the Los Angeles Express of the USFL, and then traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when the league folded, Young was tossed into a hopeless situation. The Bucs were a mess, a franchise defined by losing and dysfunction. By 1987, many labeled him a bust, but the 49ers saw something different and traded for him. In his first full season as starter in 1992, he threw for 3,465 yards and 25 touchdowns, leading the league in passer rating. He wasn't just good, he was electric. By now, Coach Walsh knew his team had a different kind of problem brewing.
Well, our strength is at quarterback, but our problem is we have 2, and there's a quarterback controversy developing. We're going to have to select between Steve Young and Joe Montana.
A left-handed quarterback with pinpoint accuracy and breakaway speed, Young brought a new dynamic to the 49ers offense. While Montana carved defenses with precision, Young torched them with unpredictability. He wasn't just a passer, he was a threat on every play. In his career, he rushed for 4,239 yards and 43 touchdowns. Numbers unheard of for quarterbacks in that era. But then inheriting a dynasty is never easy. When Montana was traded in 1993, the fan base didn't really rally behind Young. They hesitated. Some even booed, especially during the '94 game against Montana and the Chiefs. A moment meant to celebrate the future felt like a referendum on the past. No matter what he did, the comparisons continued. But hey, he did a whole lot. 29,907 passing yards, 221 touchdowns, and a franchise best 101.4 passer rating. He won NFL MVP twice, in '92 and '94, and led the league in passer rating 6 times. But his playoff record became a point of attack, and it caused a lot of frustration. But in 1994, Young answered his critics. That season, he led the 49ers to a 13-3 record and dominant playoff run. In Super Bowl 29, he put on a performance for the ages, throwing a record 6 touchdown passes in a 49-26 rout of the San Diego Chargers. He was finally a champion in his own right. No Montana, no controversy, just brilliance. Although Young eventually won over many fans, some never fully embraced him, not because of who he was, but because of who he wasn't. You see, Young didn't just succeed Montana, he survived him. Joe Montana and Steve Young. 2 quarterbacks, 1 franchise, and a legacy split down the middle. By the numbers, both were elite. Montana threw for 35,000 yards, 224 touchdowns, and posted a 92.3 passer rating. Young answered with nearly 30,000 yards, 221 touchdowns, and a league-leading 101.4 rating. But where Montana's legacy is built on rings, Young's is built on efficiency and evolution. Montana was surgical. He read defenses like sheet music. His throws weren't the strongest, but they were always on time. His poise in big moments made him the ultimate closer, a 4-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, and the engineer of a dynasty. Meanwhile, Young was dynamic. He brought chaos to order, a left-handed, dual-threat weapon who could just as easily escape pressure for a 40-yard scramble as he could drop a perfect dime in coverage. He adapted the West Coast offense to a new era, one where quarterbacks had to move, improvise, and overcome. Coach Walsh was determined to get the best out of these 2 giants, but it ended up dividing the team. Teammates chose sides. Some favored the veteran who built the dynasty. Others backed the hungry challenger, ready to take it forward. Even fans couldn't agree. In some cases, Young was booed, not for his performance, but for not being Joe Montana. What makes this rivalry so unique is that it didn't play out in head-to-head games. It played out in the shadows, in the media, in the hearts of fans, and in every pass thrown at Candlestick Park for nearly 20 years. Eventually, in 1993, Montana asked to be traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, but Cool Joe made sure he gave the Niners faithful something to remember.
At the 26-yard line. Joe scrambles to the 11. Crowd collecting breath for Montana.
To some, it was a betrayal. The man who brought 4 championships to San Francisco was sent away to make room for the next man up. To others, it was overdue, a necessary step to move on from the past. Looking at everything that happened, one might think both Joe and Steve must hate each other, but the reality is they don't, and both men have made it clear in interviews.
Got a young guy pushing you in town now, Steve Young. He's had some success on the team. Tell me about your relationship with Steve.
We both respect each other's ability, but yet we're friends about it. I have to help him, he has to help me.
But while Steve Young gave the 49ers longevity, evolution, and continued excellence, it was Montana who built the foundation. His clutch performances, unmatched Super Bowl resume, and leadership in the most critical moments gave San Francisco its identity. He turned a losing franchise into a standard for greatness. Young may have outpaced Montana statistically, but numbers don't tell the whole story. Montana made the 49ers matter, and for that, he edges the legacy debate. But who do you think has the better legacy between the two? Let us know in the comments.